made 3 videos showcasing one of my paper art projects, so if you haven't seen those 3 videos, you should go watch them now. I'll leave a link somewhere and then come back to this video to watch the behind the art. So I've studied product design, and what you just saw in those 3 videos is this project, which is actually my graduation project, and it was developed in the subject called unique design, which can be a little bit more about handcrafted, handmade products as opposed to industrial products. Just gonna briefly explain the function of the product, but don't go anywhere because this is waiting. I have to show you all of these at the table in like a couple of seconds. As you could have probably guessed already, this product is actually made to be a toy for kids. It's meant to, of course, entertain them, but also build up their storytelling skills and build up their imagination so they can create their own stories with this product. All 3 scenes that I've created are related by one theme, and the theme is how do fairies live their lives. I also made a box to show how it can be sold on the shelves as a real toy. Now I'm going to show you the good part, which you've probably been waiting for, and it's actually the concept art part. What I was going to actually draw and how things would look like. As I said, the general theme was Life of the Fairies. I've previously done one project similar to this, except it wasn't pop-up and it had 4 scenes. But I decided to expand it and create this one, which was supposed to be more interactive and have more of that storytelling vibe. The first idea was to have 3 smaller scenes. One was supposed to be about sewing, the other one supposed to be about cooking, and the third one was kind of like a pumpkin garden. And here we see the exterior of the kitchen. This is also the first initial sketch for the kitchen, the interior, and it looks nothing like the final one. It was just me getting out the ideas. Here I did some sketches of windows. This was actually where I opened up my eyes more to see just how many different themes this could get. Like, for example, this window looked like it belonged to an evil palace or something. At this time, my head was already full of ideas, and in order to depict it, I just went into watercolors. Here you see the translation from the general scene to sort of like a pop-up theater. After that, I had to actually learn how to make pop-ups, and I've researched the pop-up mechanisms, some really simple ones, some really complicated ones, and then later it just starts taking the shape of my product. Because I've done that concept art for windows, it inspired me to do a lot more, and I actually end up splitting the theme into 3 sets: the spring, autumn, and winter. And I also made mood boards to help me visualize it. Although I already had certain idea about what it was going to look like and what the colors will be, I still needed to see it before my eyes in some form so that I can have at least some guidance. These are the color swatches for the spring set. Each of these groups represents a different pop-up, and one of those pop-up, which is this one, was actually this sketch. The first set is about sewing, lots of flowers, leaves, how do fairies make their clothes. Second set was all about the beauty of winter. The last theme, and the one that I actually made, was the so-called warm autumn. Moving on to the first actual pop-up, which is this one. I wanted to get the feel of those windows that were really common in Italy, because it is a kitchen, right? I was experimenting a lot with having the fairies try to camouflage themselves. This pop-up is all about gardening, and the pumpkin actually serves as some kind of a tool shed, because I still really didn't know what else was going to be in that scene besides the pumpkin. I had to draw it out before I actually start drawing, painting, and cutting the actual model. Also, to figure out what to draw inside the pumpkin, as well as create furniture for the outside, I made these sketches. Here you see little shelves and herbs. This chest here, where you can see the really big blueberries compared to the chest. So I wanted to really make it look miniature by making the fruit or beans, seeds, whatever, look bigger. And then I've sort of hidden some of the objects so that you can discover them by yourself. Now, I don't know if you would guess what this is just by looking, but they're actually water holders, sort of like the ones that you would water your plants with. But they're so tiny that they carry just a couple of drops. Thought that was fun to mention. The second pop-up I made was the entrance for the kitchen, aka the forest floor. In this pop-up, I wanted to depict how the fairy kitchen is actually situated within a rock that's all covered in moss. There was going to be some mushrooms and some beautiful autumn leaves. The main part is the staircase to the door. I wanted the door to have 3 layers and that you can open all of them. One layer is the camouflage, the other one is the actual door, and the third layer was the one that I did these 3 sketches for. I wanted the kitchen to be visible so that you can really understand how the warmth is coming through from the cooking. Also, you might see a lot of pottery around this fairy home, and that is because I wanted to show how fairies made their tools and their furniture out of earthy, natural materials. Here I was trying to figure out the mechanism of the stepping stones, a drawing for the cherry fairy, and a little water bed. Also a couple of more furniture pieces that go onto this scene. You can see the little metal stools. This one, because it's brown, it's meant to sit on the dirt, and the other one is meant to sit on the moss, so it actually looks like it's just the metal that you see. And as for the kitchen, I wanted to have it somehow closed to show that it's an interior. So it was supposed to have this additional part that you somehow clip onto the scene, and on the top of it was a window with a fairy popping out. But this was a little bit too complicated and I didn't really know how to go about it. I just decided to skip it until I am a little bit more advanced in pop-up making. The kitchen was really a challenge in itself because it was supposed to have 6 or 7 areas. I had the workstation area where they would prepare the food, the nectar rack, the wood stock, the food storage, the dining table, the oven to bake in, and the stove to cook on. And it took me a couple of sketches to get the order right. So through all of these elements that I've just listed, I wanted to show what fairies actually prepare in their kitchen. For instance, in the workstation, we can see a little rolling pin and the dough. So they actually make their own bread. As for the table, I really wanted it to be interactive, and this is the model that I made. It shows how the table is empty in 1 minute and then full in another. So this one is really interesting. It's actually an endless cabinet. It's supposed to be a food storage to hold all of the food that fairies collect. In order to show that the cabinet was endless, I wanted it to have multiple doors that would open and close. So I used this mechanism, which you can see it's a flip book, and I've tried to make an animation out of it at first, but I went in to make the doors actually. And although this is a little bit broken, it actually works on the final model. And probably the hardest thing that I had to make was the oven. As for the stove, it was easy to find a place for it and to draw it, but I really wanted the oven for baking the bread to be really interactive. I wanted it to have this sort of like handmade look to it, like it was really rustic, almost like fairies made it from some kind of earthy material like clay. As you can see, I went through countless models to achieve that curvature. The latest model I've done did it, and I could include this. As for the nectar rack, I also did a couple of paper models, and I went with one of the shapes to make a final piece painted in watercolor, but halfway through the process I realized it was just a little bit too sloppy for my taste, and then I replaced it with this more rectangular shape. And it turned out for the better because now it can fit underneath the kitchen floor, which actually looks like it's in a basement. And last but not least, we have 5 individual fairies. There are 2 gatherers, 1 cook, 1 tea drinker, drinker and one gardener. So obviously the gardener and the cook were very easy to design. You know, you're given an apron and some tools and that's it. I made these two to look like my two best college friends, Andrea, who is the best cook of our age that I know of, and Almedina. She is a great painter, but she also is someone who taught me to take way too many coffee and tea breaks. That's why I made her just chill fabulously outside. This one was the initial sketch for the gardeners, but they just look a little bit way too human carrying these baskets and all, and I thought I wanted them to have, you know, free hands so that they can pick the harvestables as they fly. Now, I don't know if you've done this as a kid, but I remember when I was a kid, me and my friends, we used to pick cherries. We would fold up our shirt and place the cherries in there and then come home with this dirty shirt that was just ready for washing. That was really fun, and that's why I decided to give these fairies some kind of like anti-gravity dresses that just hold up all of the fruit. Okay, that's about it for now. Thumbs up if you liked the video and subscribe to stay updated, since I'll be making more of these little paper theaters here on YouTube, and you'll actually get to see the process of painting. Thank you so much for watching till the end of the video. I'll see you soon. Bye!